Not too long ago, I talked about this tripod right here from K&F Concept. It's what I said was a fairly compact and fairly cheap aluminum tripod. There are some issues with it, but generally speaking, it was a pretty decent little tripod for the money. Today, we're talking about this guy here, a much more compact carbon fiber tripod that has quite a lot of improvements. So let's get into it. So we're going to try to run through this review fairly quickly. We're going to talk about some of the design aspects of this tripod. We'll draw some comparisons with the previous one that I reviewed, and we'll talk about things that I like and things that I don't like. This tripod here weighs 1 kilogram, including the ball head that's included. It is similar to, but a little bit smaller than the previous ball head. That was the KF28. This is the KF25, but this is 1 kilogram total. Now it's carbon fiber, like I said. Typically carbon fiber is a little bit lighter, but with this small size, there's still a lot of metal in here just in comparison to the overall amount of carbon fiber. So it's 1 kilogram versus 1.5 in the previous version, although it is also smaller. So make of that what you will. This does still fold back on itself, so you can see here the legs are folded back on that center column, and as you extend them this way, you can then lock them into place and slide the center column down to use it. The leg locks here are a little bit different though. These have no springs. You'll just kind of move it into place and then push it down, and it will lock in at one of the few positions that it can possibly lock in at. You pull it out to reposition it, push it in again, and then it will lock in against that. You can see physically in here the different positions where it will lock in. So before, we had these kind of ratcheting legs that had a spring type clip here, so you would pull it back, put it in, and then just let it go, and it would automatically spring back into place. And then as you kind of pull it down, it would ratchet into place because of that spring. With these, it stays loose, and then you actually push it down and it will lock into place. So I'm actually not sure which I like better, but I wanted to point that difference out to you. Another difference I want to point out to you is that before we had these flip locks, which are cheap plastic feeling. I don't love flip locks in general, plus these are plastic, but that's what we had on the previous version. Now we've got these rubber and metal twist locks, so you can just loosen it up, extend it, tighten it down, and I personally like that because you can tighten it as much as it needs to be tightened. Over time, if things get loose, it doesn't matter because you're tightening this up each time. Loosen it up and then slide that in. Boom. I like twist locks a lot more. You can grab a couple of them at a time and extend several sections, tighten down, tighten those down again. So I like this style, and these do feel pretty decent. So again, we have this double section center column. So you've got the bottom lock here and the top lock. The bottom lock will allow you to lift up and move the entire center column into place. And then the second lock on the top here will allow you to extend that even more. So that is convenient, of course, to get a little bit extra height. But of course, the more you extend it, the more and more it's going to be unstable. So generally speaking, you don't want to extend the center column at all unless you really have to. Another thing I wanted to point out though is that this comes with this little rubber O-ring on the center here in between these two locks. And the problem with that is that when you try to, for example, collapse this down, if the rubber O-ring is in the middle, the friction kind of gets in the way, and you really have to push that down to get that rubber O-ring to slide up with it. Otherwise it gets stuck. If it's at the top, all the way at the top, then it's not a problem, but it's just a little bit finicky. I'm probably just going to completely remove the center column and then just take that O-ring off. I won't have to deal with that, but it is something that I noticed. Now, while we're talking about size and all that, let me just check my notes here. This one has 5 leg sections instead of 4 like the previous one, obviously, because overall it is shorter, so those leg sections are shorter. The thinnest one on the bottom there is only 1 centimeter thick in diameter, so very thin, although compared to that, this is not unstable or shaky like I would expect it to be. This is decently stable, or as stable as you could expect it to be with those thin little legs, but as a travel tripod, that's what you're dealing with. It folds down to a minimum of about 35 centimeters, and also if you have all the legs spread out, obviously the center pole is going to be in the way, so you have to lift it up, but you can get down to a lowest working height of about 35 centimeters. So very low profile. Again, great for travel. You could easily throw this into onto a backpack or even a small messenger bag that has those loops for a tripod underneath it, for example. Despite that though, it goes up to about 120 centimeters without raising this center column, and then if you raise it, it will go up to about 140 centimeters with just the center column itself moved up, and then if you extend it, it'll go up to just over 150 centimeters in height. It does have this retractable spring hook on the bottom, so you can hook on a bag or something like that for a center of gravity, a more stable center of gravity. And you can also remove this cap, then remove the center column, and remove this leg here with the foam on it. So if you want to use this as a monopod instead, you can put those two parts together, and then you've got a monopod. Other than that, the last things to really note here is that unfortunately the feet here are not removable or retractable or anything. There's no way to switch these out for spikes. They're just right on the bottom of that little last section here. And also the ball head, again, like I said, the design is the same as before. You've got one knob here to loosen up the ball, and then you've got another to adjust the pan, to loosen the pan. So if you need to spin this around and get that little section here, the little notch where you can put this down at a 90-degree angle, you can spin that around. The plate is still an Arca Swiss style plate. It's compatible with the plates that I've tried personally, and you do have a little bubble level right on there. So at the moment, I'm actually not sure of the price, but that's going to be probably the final factor in my decision if I would really strongly recommend this or not. But in terms of design and quality and everything like that, it feels really great. You've got the carbon fiber legs, you've got metal hardware here, you've got the monopod capability. It's very tiny and compact, fairly lightweight at 1 kilogram, and it holds a decent amount of weight. It's fairly stable as I expect from any tripod in this size. And this is great to have if, again, you're in need of a tripod and you find yourself going out a lot and you want something to strap onto your bag that isn't too much extra for you to bring along with you. This might be a good choice. But if you have any other questions or comments, please do let me know down below and I will do my best to get back to you. Otherwise, if you like this video or found it helpful, please consider giving it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time.